Good evening. Welcome to the Parks and Rec meeting. In the absence of a chairperson, I will run the meeting and call it to order. Vicki, would you call roll, please?
Commissioner Rowley?
Here.
Commissioner Jones? Commissioner Paula?
Here.
Commissioner Casaus?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Salguero? Ms. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Frazee?
Here.
Mr. Davis? And Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Vicki. The next order of business is the election of a chairperson and vice chairperson. Claire?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner, members of the Parks, Recreation and Beautification Committee. Since the the municipal elections in March, Commissioner Madrid, Commissioner Elliott left us. They were the chair and vice chair of this committee. So I'm looking to you this evening, Commissioners, if you could advise who from the Commission would like to serve as the chair and vice chair, please. Thank you.
I make a motion, Commissioner Paula be chairman.
Second. I'll second.
Okay. What do I do?
Ask everybody, all those in favor say
Okay,
aye.
all those in favor say pro. Yes.
Pro, yes.
Aye.
Okay, all those against, same sign. Okay, I guess I will be the chairperson. Now we need to elect a vice chairman. Do I have a motion
I
of?
motion to place Commissioner Casaus as the vice chair.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Rowley and a second from Jamal Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, Commissioner Casaus, welcome to the vice presidency.
Commissioner Paula.
Okay, let's move on. Approval of minutes from the March 31st, 2022 meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I think we can just vote acclamation because some of us weren't even here.
Okay.
We're still going to need a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on. We have a discussion and recommendation of the Guy Leader field lights. Mr. Hooper.
Congratulations to our new chairman,
Thank
vice chair. We were recently approached with Roger with Guy Leader about trying to. They're wanting. Let's see. I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. We had one of the poles go down, as we mentioned last year. Went over by wind. We've replaced it with an LED. It's really improved the lighting conditions on the field, and they would like to continue this on their fields. And they're wanting to start using the user fees as we do on agreements, use user fees for capital improvement projects. And this is just what he's brought to me. At this time, we're still trying to verify the projected user fees, which are going to be, I want to say, in the $9,000 a year range. Now we've got to take those and say, okay, how many lights do you plan on doing and getting a full cost on those? And then determine, okay, how many years are we going out? There's generally on our user agreements, there's a 2-year period to where if you make an improvement, you can count off to 2 years. So if he's wanting to make all his improvements at once, then he's only going to get 2 years. If he's wanting to stagger it out, kind of depends. And that's kind of where we're in the thing. And it wasn't more as much of a recommendation as just was wanting to update y'all and kind of let y'all know where we were going on the lighting for Guy Leader.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Has he ever paid any user fee, back to the city?
I'll be honest, I don't know. My understanding is he has made improvements of either every year or every other year, which have covered those costs. As far as actually writing the check to us, I do not believe so, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, and Madam Chair and Vice Chair, that's something that we do need to consider and think about, because the lights that are out there currently, while they're not brand new LED lights, they are functional. And so we would essentially be giving up user fees to replace a piece of equipment that is currently functional. And so is that a benefit to the city of Clovis? Are you going to potentially have reduced electrical cost? Yes, certainly. What is the value of that? That would obviously play into it as well. But until we have all these details, that is something that we want or would need to consider. One of the reasons we put the 2-year cap on capital improvements is so somebody in a particular instance couldn't come and make $50,000 worth of improvements, and then they have the next 10 years, 20 years without having to pay a user fee to the city of Clovis, while we still do have operational expenses that we're incurring. So, like Russell said, we're kind of in the fact-finding spot right now, and so hopefully we'll have more information for you. But that is obviously something that we need to consider, is what is the value.
In my opinion, in the 6 years I've been a commissioner, I've never heard of user fees being paid back to the city. I feel like we need to start accumulating some money from these fields, and I would vote no.
Yeah, and to
Your
let you know, I know
suggestion.
every 2 years the finance committees will come up, which should be, I believe, coming up in August, if I'm not mistaken. And there are some ways that we've started looking at. It's like, okay, if we can use user fees to go to a capital improvement, well, what is another way to generate some revenue? We know we're never going to break a profit, but we do want to offset some of our costs. A new mower is costing me $13,000. You know, if I'm going to mow the field, I got to have one of these, and at some point ours are getting old. So we do need to make a contingency plan and a capital improvement plan, which we have started working on, and some of that will come up in that committee.
Anyone else?
How often, or do they pay user fees like per season or per tournament, or how often are their user fees?
Under current things, it's kind of similar. I mean, it's obviously exact as what y'all are running. It's based on user fees per season. The last finance committee did not approve, or the commission, I'm not sure which, did not approve the tournament fees. Something I'll be requesting again in the future to be approved next time. So there's some of these things that are, it's user fee, and it's still based on the $2 kids, $3 adults, and that's basically all it, yeah.
And one of the other things that we're going to look at during the revenue review process is, should we be doing it per team versus per player? How should we make that look? Some teams may have more players than others, but from a baseball standpoint or from a softball standpoint, the additional players you have, they're sitting on the bench. I mean, you can only play 9 in the case of baseball or 10 in the case of softball. So similar to like volleyball. And so it doesn't matter how many people are actually on the team versus the team itself.
And I think we've also brought up, well, do we continue doing it by player, or now do we do, all right, you've got 3 fields, those fields are worth X, Y, and Z, as opposed to, you know, if you run 100 teams or run 10 teams, you're still locking up our fields for that period of time. So there's different options that we're trying to investigate and see what makes sense, best sense for the city and best sense for the kids, recreational people, so.
Okay. So are we looking for a recommendation on the lighting, or we're just having a discussion?
Yeah, no, it should have just been discussion. For
Okay.
this item and actually the next, there is no recommendation necessary. So it's just general discussion.
Okay, perfect. So if there's not any other questions, then we'll move on to the next topic, which is also Mr. Hooper regarding the parks restructuring.
Yes, thank you. Like I said, I might be up here a while. Currently, we have, and again, we have a very flat organizational chart within Parks and Recreation. In the Park Maintenance Division, I've got 13 park maintenance specialists. They all do different jobs, but they all have the same job title, job description, everything else, and there's no differentiation. In the zoo, we have 7 zookeepers. They're all zookeepers. There's no differentiation, no hierarchy necessarily. What we're trying to do is create a situation to where there's a zookeeper and a senior zookeeper, or a zookeeper 1, zookeeper 2, a park maintenance specialist and a senior park maintenance specialist, you know, however we decide to title those. Then when we get into park maintenance, well, now I've got my pesticide applicator, I've got my playground safety. Those are specialized trades that I'm gonna need to get them certificates, so they need to be a higher grade than the guy coming in that's gonna run the weed eater. Higher responsibility, stuff like that. So it's one of those that we're just trying to create a system to where I can come in and learn how to run a weed eater, and then learn how to run a mower, and move up in a position, and then get a trade and decide I'm a hard worker, so I'm gonna get my pesticide license and go into this, which eventually put me into a supervisory position. And you can just see it's sort of a chain that, succession plan that we can come up with. One of the other things I'm wanting to do is right now, aquatics is under park maintenance. It's not a good fit. The only thing they do is buy chemicals out of our budget. Other than that, I want to move aquatics over to recreation, give them to TARE. That's supposed to be the fun group. We're supposed to be laughing, enjoying ourselves at the pools. We're supposed to be laughing, enjoying ourselves. My maintenance workers, they're mowing grass. They're not having as much of a smile and a fun. So it's one of those things that you want to pull over into another division, I guess. There's also the same aspect of most of my lifeguards that are coming in right now are high school, upper high school, swim team, swim club. Well, those are the perfect candidates for him to talk into becoming the next rec assistant. Or the guy that now worked with kids all summer now gets that desire, takes his college classes, comes back and does some internship as a rec assistant. Things like that to where, again, we can create kind of a succession plan. Hopefully we can grow some of our own future employees by having some of these employees starting off young. Just, like I say, to where we have a more vertical instead of everything as being horizontal in the organization chart. And again, this is just an information thing. I know when we come to June 1st and I start asking for different things, that'll become a different question altogether. Then we may need some recommendations.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it gives people the ability to move up and see where they can go within the department.
And right now, it's all the raises are based on time, not on performance. And I would like to be able to change some of that to where, like, say, that guy that comes in and he's a hard worker, you can give him a shot at a higher position that actually means something to him.
That was my next question. When you move up in the hierarchy chain, does that also, the wages adjust accordingly?
Yes, and the theory is, so there's a combination between it'll be time and a grade. But yeah, we do want to change up grades. Right now, it's like my pesticide applicator is a higher grade than some of my others because he does have a license and the way it transferred into me. Well, I'd like to get my irrigator who's going to have the same license and liabilities, and my playground safety inspector all at those same levels. So that's, like I say, a positional move up.
Okay. Any questions?
I think that's wonderful for employee morale.
Employee retention, employee morale,
yes.
there's so many aspects that you can build off of there to promote from within. So.
Anyone else? Okay, and next discussion is regarding the AYSO. Mr. Hooper, I believe we had a conversation with them 60 days ago or so time has flown, regarding whether or not they could form their
flies.
board back up to use the fields. So where are we at with that?
I believe our original discussion where the minutes show is they were supposed to respond to us by May 1st. Had not heard from them. I have contacted them. I contacted Pat Snyder on Friday, who has emailed me back and said, we are working on it, is basically the best answer I could give. He's saying hopefully he started getting some of the board. They're still looking for more volunteers. They're hoping to get something together by the fall. That's kind of where we stand, and that's kind of where we do need some direction, I guess. Because it was originally, it said something about a May 1st deadline, but it also said something about the fall in the minutes. So it was kind of.
If I remember the conversation correct, didn't we say they had to have a plan by May 1st and have a board put together for potential play in the fall?
That's correct.
So in my opinion, I hate to see that property sit empty during the prime season when someone can use it for another sport. That's my thoughts. If you're looking for some
Yeah,
opinion.
and I'm not sure from a sports standpoint and utilization standpoint, the space just honestly in the summertime, soccer is a fall and a spring sport, and so the summertime that area usually does not get used. I believe some other sports have reached out to us, but I think they fall also in the fall for their seasons. Is that
Flag
correct?
football
Yeah,
was
flag football.
one
So
that-
I mean, it'd be a fall sport.
So we typically don't have a user for that property in the summer?
No, we do not.
Not unless AYSO did the British soccer camp.
Yeah. But that was only for, a week, 2 weeks. So, really, I mean, decision and direction being, do we want to continue to work with AYSO and them trying to form their board in preparation of the fall season, or are we going to potentially shift directions and then look for other potential programming for the fall versus it being dedicated for AYSO soccer?
And I would like to, obviously, there's going to be a time frame and issue there, because at some point, if I understand it right, we're going to have to make the decision, okay, we're ending the contract with them, which we don't have, and then now which direction do we want to go? Do we start dedicating flag football? Do we rebuild? I know at one point in time, Guy Leader's wanting to add another baseball field. Do we put some other fields there for city use to keep it open and public? I mean, there's a lot of options there that are going to have to go through several discussions and agreements also.
Do they still utilize, what field is that for the little kids to play football?
Jim,
Ryerson?
Jim, is it
Hill or
the
Ryerson? Which-
Hill?
Jim Hill is the football field by American Little League's field, and then upward for flag football was using Ryerson.
correct.
Are you,
I know Jim Hill football is very big. I know there's always a lot of teams out there. But that's in the fall, isn't it?
is it possible, since our end goal, we talk about user fees and generating user fees, I feel like we have given ASO a shot, and I'm absolutely for allowing them to use that property, but can we put it out there to see what other organizations would be interested in can they, form a board, and how many kids are you gonna have? And if you've got a group that's willing to have, 200 kids out there using that field, generating those fees, to me, it would be almost a better option for who's gonna use it the most. If you say there's other groups out there that are potentially interested in you.
Yeah, we've only been approached, I want to say, by the Upward group for flag football. That's all we've heard from. Obviously, we're not actively advertising field space and utilization for that, but it's certainly something, I mean, we could talk about and think about. I mean, with Tari being the new rec coordinator, he's not here, is he?
Yes, he's back there.
Oh, there he is. Way back. And so, could it be adult flag football, or could it be Frisbee? There's probably endless possibilities out there. It's just knowing if the space is tied up to something else, really what limits our programming. So until we know how we want to move forward, then we can't start programming that space, if that makes sense.
Does anyone else have any thoughts?
It's in the master plan to consolidate both of the soccer leagues, so basically to move the AYSO over to the south of where the CYSA is. That's in the master plan. So I think that was the intent.
That was correct. That was the intent of the master plan, was to have kind of that southern part of Hillcrest as soccer fields in general, and then the potential to build additional softball fields or even additional football field in that large of a space. Some other things that we've been looking at internally is right now where the sand volleyball area is off to the west side of Hillcrest, kind of mixed in with the zoo area there. If we ever want to expand our zoo, that would be a great opportunity for us to basically redo the fence line in there, turn that inward facing towards our zoo to where we could add additional exhibits within that facility. So then where would we move the sand volleyball area? And so that could be potentially something that is repurposed over in the AYSO area. That's not going to take up much space, but it is an option.
Mr. Howell, Board, I do have a question. When was the last time AYSO had a season?
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID,
Is CYSA continue to operate, or?
they're operating now.
Okay.
And operated last year.
They started back up when they could. what unfortunately happened, I believe, with AYSO is a lot of their board either PCS'd and moved, and they just weren't able to refill their board, and so they've just kind of gone defunct at this point.
So there is an option for the kids who want to play soccer to
Absolutely.
continue to play. I think I don't think I was here when CYSA started. CYSA?
CYSA, correct.
I never was a big fan of having two different leagues in a town like ours, and I didn't think it was good for the sport. I think as long as the kids have a solid option, I think we should look to see who can utilize the fields correctly. And I do think the master plan is a good one, to get all the kids playing on the same field in the same league, and give the expansion to other sports that can maybe utilize it.
Anyone else? So would you like us to make a decision tonight, or have you heard enough ideas? What do you?
I'm willing to give you a pass and let you think about it for another month. But just for your information, obviously we had that May 1 deadline. That was not met. The feedback we received was they're still working on it. So if you don't mind, obviously you guys were the ones that voted on the May 1st deadline. If y'all want to extend that another month, that's certainly up to you to do that.
Does anybody have any disagreement with extending it until June? I guess the June meeting. Okay, then that's what we'll do.
Okay, and I will get hold of Pat and let him know the decision and tell him, basically, we got another month. Please come to us with a plan.
Okay. That sounds good. And I think, our original deal was we had to have a board, correct? We need a board so that we know that they're serious. Okay. Number 8, updates on park projects.
Okay. I don't know, Vicki missed one in here. So obviously, the first thing I'd like to do, especially since Justin's mentioned the zoo, is I'd like to bring up Damien Lechner. He is our new zoo director. Today's his first day, and he'd like to make a presentation on all the improvements he'd like to. No, he came to us latest from Los Angeles Zoo. Before that, he was running the zoo in Laos. Before that, he's Houston Zoo. He's elephant certified, and he's it's one of those things. It really is a neat deal. We had our original interview with him, and it was just amazing. Him and Lisa were speaking such the same language, and I was just over there just nodding my head and going, okay, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And but no, it's really been great. He got here last Wednesday. He tried to sneak in the zoo. Lisa caught him, and so they did their first tour. Then we had some meetings yesterday and today, and just really started discussing some things, and it's so great. And I want to follow up. It's like Tari is to have a gentleman come in with a positive attitude that knows what they're doing, that is wanting to make improvements to our business. I think that was one of the kind of directives I was given when I was getting here, is how can we improve things? And we've tried to bring in people to be positive attributes. And so, questions, comments, he's good for anything if we need to, or just also I want y'all to make sure you recognize his face. Please come out to the zoo and see what we're doing. Ask him any questions you want to.
Welcome, Damien. We're glad you're here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Did you say you just moved here from Los Angeles?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, welcome.
yeah, just got here Wednesday and.
Little change of pace, huh?
It is, yeah. No traffic. It's wonderful.
Well, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Damien.
One thing he did let me know that I think it's we complain a lot here about different stuff. He said the price of gas he was currently paying was $6.50 a gallon. Yeah, so so it's one of those things to where you forget small. Man, big town looks great until you start thinking about all the benefits of a small town and all the things we can do and accomplish by working together. So, just want to introduce you. Great American Cleanup. I believe Vicki has our numbers. We had a pretty good turnout last week before Saturday.
Last Saturday,
They were tending to run together.
we had 206 volunteers. We had 238 bags of trash collected, 71 tires. The first place team that won was the 27th SOLRS from Cannon. They cleaned MLK from Grand to Llano and had 15 volunteers, picked up 56 bags. Second place was a team from Walmart. We've never had a team from Walmart. And they cleaned Llano from MLK to Prince, 9 volunteers and 48 bags. Third place was ALS. They cleaned US 6084 from Norris to Sugar Beet. They had 47 volunteers and had 45 bags and only cleaned for 2 hours, and then they left and still managed to get 45 bags. So we had lots of family teams, lots of parents and just kids that said they wanted to come out and help clean, so it was a good turnout. We had donuts
Did donuts?
from Daylight. Derwiener Stencil donated lunch, the hot dogs. We went to pay for them, and Jim Haley said, "No, this is my donation to you." So he did that at the last cleanup as well. So thank
Wonderful,
him.
that's awesome.
And thank you to those of you that came out to help Commissioner Casals signing people up and Commissioner Rowley handing out shirts and donuts and sunscreen. Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's something to build on. Again, it's small towns getting together and coming together and accomplishing a goal. Do we have a date for the next one, Claire, or have we set that for October or September?
I don't
Okay,
have it yet. Yeah.
just to have it in the, making you commit now.
It's in the fall, isn't it?
It is. It's in October.
We said it.
It's going to be cold. Ask me earlier.
It's right there on your calendar until you look for it. No pressure, we're on live TV. Okay, and so
Okay,
we
we
will
can
make
move
that
on and we'll come back to
announcement
that.
when- Yes, so the Potter Pool resurfacing, we've got, which is a lot of updates since it's been 2 months. We got together on a CES contract, we found some local people that would do the Potter Pool resurfacing, and they're working on it now. They're supposed to be on this week, and this is the week they should be finishing up, last week and this week. So it should be open in time for Memorial Day. So we did through Griego as a general contractor, and then he hired pool resurfacer and went through the CES contract, so.
So did they resurface the entire pool or just the deep end where it was so bad?
Entire pool.
Oh, nice.
I think the final cost was $86,000. So it was a bunch, but it was actually a little under what we would, one of our original projections was. I actually got a bid for 200, I believe. So we went with the 86. But it was also, you go with the local people that could do it, and the time frame seemed to work real well for us. So that should be up and running. We did splash pad on Family Fun Day last Saturday, so that ran through pretty good. One problem with a little Stenner pump that we were already be replacing today, just on our chlorine balance. So it was a pretty good event. I don't have our numbers for that, but it was a pretty good turnout. I believe it was 2,000, a little over 2,000 on the zoo for Family Fun Day, just as an update. It was a pretty good spread out over the day, so we had a good course of people. Summer youth programs. Atari, did you want to come up? Because I know there were some questions. We came to the council before and did some budget adjustments and stuff, and so we just want to kind of update y'all, kind of where we're sitting, where we're at.
Good afternoon. So originally we was going to do 25 kids. Currently we have exceeded that. We are expecting to have at least 100 kids in the summer program. I'm looking forward to have a great time with the children. Parents have been really excited. They actually have been asking, is this something that we're going to continue to do every year? That is something I would like to do, and also maybe next year expand it a little more to get some of the middle school age kids opportunity to participate. So that's going good with that. Our coordinator was supposed to be starting next week, so I'm looking forward to filling her in to see what kind of thoughts and ideas she have on some things. She could probably make some adjustments to the schedule for the kids, and I'm expecting it to be a great turnout.
Well, that's awesome. I can't believe you went from 25 kids to over 100. That's amazing.
Hey,
It
great work.
doesn't surprise me at all. That's awesome. Good job.
Thanks.
Are you nervous to have all those kids?
No.
I would be.
Yeah, it's great. It'd be fine.
Well, great. Well, I'm excited to come out and check it out.
Oh, yeah. Hey, don't hesitate. Come on out.
We need volunteers.
There you go.
Good?
Questions?
Do you take donations? Are you, from organizations?
Far as,
Well, anything that you could use money on? Or is your
And
budget?
Claire might have some of the answer on that, because we have had some donations to the program already.
Yes, so we've, La Casa de Buena Salud is providing breakfast and lunch, so as part of the free summer program. And we're working with Albertsons, they are looking at providing snacks. But I'm sure that we would gratefully receive any donations from organizations who would like to
Well, you know, I belong
purchase.
to one that is good. It's
items.
giving to the children. That's what our organization is all about. So I will propose that to them on Thursday,
okay.
and I bet we can get you some money.
Okay, that'd be great. We'd take every penny.
Okay.
Yeah, and just for the viewing audience, we're looking for things like ping pong tables and, soccer balls, all the usual things that you would, we do have a budget, but anything, if there anybody out there in TV land would like to donate something to Tori's program, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I know we've had some discussion in some of our, I think, commission meetings and at the Parks Beautification Committee about some of our restrooms. What I've done is gone to Hillcrest Park restroom, the one that's right by the splash pad. It's the older one that's been there forever. There's been discussion of wanting it open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which has some impracticalities, and I just want to make sure I brought some of the things up. I've talked to the electricians, so to get basically heat in the building, we're gonna have to rerun power or run gas out to it, stuff that's not, it wasn't designed for this, and redo some things. I've gone through and got some bids on replacing and making some nicer stalls, nicer urinals, toilets, things along these lines, sinks. The bid I got was in the 40,000 range to update and make it nicer. So it was, like I say, this is more of an update to somewhere keep in the back of the mind of, okay, do we want to head a direction to where we spend that money on that to upgrade a restroom, or do we need to go a different path, I guess is what it amounts to. And that is a one-time fee to get it to a certain state. I know our other restroom there, we've already replaced stuff that's been kicked off the walls, the doors have been taken down, stuff like that. So there is ongoing expense. So, and I'm hoping I'm explaining right. So it's like 40,000 to buy this or fix it up, and then the maintenance cost will be X numbers after that, depending on what happens, the graffiti, the vandalism, things along these lines. Hopefully we're looking at trying to do a lot of stainless steel stuff, which a lot of people don't like for their fixtures. On the other hand, it's more durable. If it does get broken off a wall and you can still break them off the wall, then the cost is, I mean, it's an ongoing battle, and just kind of, like I say, letting you know where we're at and what we're looking at, so you'll know that, we're taking an interest in it, we're trying to solve a problem. There are just some hurdles to come up with, and obviously some hurdles are bigger than others, so.
But during the summer months, when are the bathrooms open?
Right now, we have them open all day, 24 hours a day, so
Oh,
during the
24
summer
hours
month.
a day.
Yes, we're not really staffed to go in the evenings, because technically the park shuts down at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, depending on which sign you read, and we can't send somebody by in the dark to shut them down. Now, some of the things we have done is I've gotten with one of our electrical contractors to come in and give me some quotes on, I want some lights at them. Right now, some of them are real dark, especially in Hillcrest, the new ones in Hillcrest and even some of the old ones. So if we can put some better lighting, at least before someone sneaks in to vandalize it, they will be lit up. I don't know if we'll ever get to the camera stage where we try to do that, or if that's even possible. On the other hand, a lot of people, if you're gonna tear up something, you wanna do it in the dark. You don't wanna have to walk through a lit parking lot or a lit place to go to. So we're trying to do some of that and decrease some of our vulnerability to some of these things. We have we've got lighting projects around the par three, the old par three building to get some of those lit up. Some of the ones in our parks, I've gotten with the Encore for the power and gotten most of theirs going again. But yeah, some of these projects are just things that we're trying to help to eliminate or dissuade or decrease our vulnerability. And that's kind of the Hillcrest Parks restrooms. We've also, some of the others like a Ryerson and some of the others, we're also looked at putting in some lighting in both the park to cover the playground and then around that restroom, because that tends to be, there's a back parking lot area that tends to be a place that you don't want to be after dark. And so we'd like to light it up to encourage people not to hang out. Again, if there's lights on, they tend not to. They're going to go find someplace else, and that's what we're trying to encourage at this point in time. I think that would be my restroom updates. Did I miss anything you can think of, Justin, or, okay. So on our playground updates, Justin, Claire, and I have started going around to our various parks and doing some tours and going site by site and looking at some park improvements we need to make and whether we missed something or whether they're a deficiency that we need to correct in some of the parks, like a Ryerson, like Brady Field, we've gone to Green Acres, gone to Potter, and looking at some things. So on the playground updates, we know we have some money coming in from the grant, and so now we're just looking at how do we maximize and get the best value for the grant money that we've got. Most of y'all familiar with Dennis Chavez now that's been in. It's getting a lot of use as a new playground. The surface area is actually up to code. It's safety, it's going to meet the guidelines for the lawyers and stuff like that. So we've looked at doing some of the possibility of, okay, the playground's not in bad shape. They just, if they fall, they're landing on concrete or sand type. So do we clean that up, clean up a border, make improvements to the fall areas to make the kids safer? Again, some of these options. Or do we, this swing is obsolete, let's move something over and bring it over here. We've looked at some of the inclusive swings for the various people. And so we're trying to do some of these things, and we're just, again, this is just an update to say, yeah, we are looking at all our options. So once we get to certain things and picking colors, we'll let y'all argue with us about those, so.
Well, no, and just to add to that, I mean, one of the things that we were looking at is, even when you look at Hillcrest Park and the playground equipment there, is I think we have 3 different sets of swing sets. Like, do we really need 3 different sets of swing sets, or is one good enough? Out at Potter Park, I think we have 3 different playgrounds out at Potter Park. And it's like, well, do we really need 3 different playgrounds out there? And so where could we take advantage of and utilize the funding that we do have coming in to make the most improvements in as many park spaces as we possibly can? A lot of the equipment isn't in bad shape. And so it's where we're talking about, it's like, should we just do the surfacing and bring that up to code? So definitely, as we're touring around, we've gotten through a lot of the parks, but still have several to go, and just different set of eyes looking at different details makes a difference.
Just a question as a parent, back when my children were smaller, I would get frustrated when I would go out there and there were no swings. It was just an empty slot. I mean, do all the swings have swings on them currently?
No, they do not. Part of that is we put them on and they get taken off or tore up or stuff like that. The other ones seem like they last forever, and it can be in the same park. It's kind of a weird situation. I think depending on the type of seat, the kids' suite seats are in the $250 range for, the bucket seat that want to go in, and the others are, if you get the good ones, they're $100 for a little slab of rubber with metal in it. It's really is amazing, but you're buying a specialty item. But yeah, no, some of them aren't, and that's one of the things we've discussed. So I've got 3 swing sets, and each of them have 2 swings on them. Well, do I move it and put all 6 on one row of bars and pull the other 2? Now I've only got to maintain 1 set of swings, which we picked the one that's in the most focal point, which has the lights on it and has everything else, which hopefully deters people taking it. So there's all these thoughts that are going into it.
So the ones that are missing, I mean, are we going to get swings? I guess it bothers me when they're we have stuff, but it doesn't function.
Right, and in my opinion, I think we've kind of discussed that, is I either need to replace the swings on it, or I need to pull the pole and consolidate that to where I do have swings there. And it may be the same number of swings, you know, do you need 15 swings at Potter Park by the time, by the time I
Right,
load them all,
right.
or can I condense that and have 8?
Right.
So there's some of those conversations going in place, but I agree with you, the empty hole looks just terrible.
Yeah. Well, and I think it just leads to more vandalism when we as a city don't take care of what we have.
Right.
What about the handicap swings? Are we still talking about those?
That was the inclusive that I was referring to, yes. And that's what we're looking at as far as, again, best location, best accessibility. We don't want to put one in where you can't get to it. So there is a point of, obviously if you're going to put this handicap in, then you got to have access to it. You got to have the parking in the park, so there's
Yeah.
3 or 4 different steps going in. Then we have to paint some spots to make sure we have accessibility. So you don't want to put one in at that house that's all dirt, because obviously you're not meeting the first requirement, much less getting all the way to it. So that's where we're looking at some of those and making sure, again, we maximize the money in the space.
Very good. Thank you, Russell.
Anything else?
I think we're
I have one question since we're on updates. What about the pickleball grants?
That actually has come up today. A gentleman wrote us on some stuff. You want to go ahead
If you like.
and put me on the spot? Go ahead.
I've been working with the gentleman from Cannon Air Force Base. For those of you that have been on the Parks Board for a while, you may recall he came and talked to you several months ago and asked if you could help with this pickleball. And so he sent me a quote from a company in Amarillo to redo Green Acres, the basketball courts there. It was about $16,000 plus tax to redo that all, put in 4 pickleball courts there, and then restripe as well for basketball. So that would be one area. And then the 50 pickleball tennis court grant, we're completing that now. Ruth Ann's working on that. So we should have that sent out probably later on this week. That's what we're anticipating.
And what's the time frame on when do you typically hear back?
It's just a cycle
Oh,
throughout
okay.
the year.
Okay.
So whenever they meet, so hopefully within a month or 2, but it's hard to know. We submitted a land water conservation grant in December for Goodwin Lake Trails with the federal government, and we still haven't heard anything, so you never know, Commissioner. I'm sorry, can't
No,
be more.
that's fine. I was curious. Okay, anybody have anything else?
Well, one other grant that we did receive was the Recreational Trails Grant, and that's actually, we applied for that through the NMDOT. And what we applied for is to develop a trail system, basically going from Bob Spencer Park, which is up in the northwest part of town, utilizing the Lee Belt Channel area, and put a trail in there that would then get you down to Green Acres Park, and then utilizing wayfinding signage to bring you down to Main Street into the Main Street District, and then continue to utilize wayfinding signage. We just are awarding the bid for 7th Street reconstruction, which will then get sidewalks and bike lanes in all the way to Main Street, which then would interconnect Main Street and down to Hillcrest Park. And so then we'd just trying to create some connectivity between our park systems through trails and wayfinding signage. So we did receive that grant last week, and so we'll start the design on it. It's not for any construction, but at least we can start laying it out and getting a plan together.
Great. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, next we are at For the Good of the Order, and our next meeting will be at 5:30 p.m. Monday, June 20th.
Excuse
here-
me,
oh,
Commissioner.
I'm sorry. Yes.
We have Ms. Bocanegra here, and I think
Hello.
she had something to talk about.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome.
Hi, dear Commissioners. I'm Jonella Bocanegra, and this is my husband Ephraim and my son Elias. And our topic to bring to the Commissioners and to the city is the condition of Harris Baseball Field. For those of you that don't know where Harris Baseball Field is located, it's off of MLK, right across the street from the hospital. You have the girls softball field, and then right behind it is Harris baseball field. The primary field that varsity uses is Bell Park, which is over on 7th Street. We've been in the program for about 6 years. Our oldest son played on the Wildcat baseball team, and now our son is playing on it. Well, the field over on Harris is primarily for the JV and the C team. That's where they practice. Now, as long as there's not a conflict in schedule, our games are typically at Bell Park, which is a beautiful field. Several concerns have been brought up, and we've had a walkthrough with Mr. Chris Bryant, and he was kind enough to meet us out there. And for to keep this short, we have a list of like 12 different concerns, and these are safety issues and just things that we can do because that field has not been maintained. My first attempt to reach out to talk to a city representative was I reached out to Mrs. Burrows. I had sent a text message and I didn't get a response. So my next course of action was to reach out to the Director of Parks and Recreation. And at that time, my main concern was the water spigot and the lack of water on the field. Because whenever the boys practice, they had to go to the bathroom to have access to water during practice, or they would have to take their own water. There's, like I say, there's a whole bunch of issues, and of course, I just feel that I needed to bring this to the board, and it was an unfortunate accident. My son, when I first reached out, it was April 11th. On April the 22nd, during one of our baseball games against Hobbs, my son was running from first to second base, and he rolled his ankle and tore a lot of the ligaments. Well, then that was on a Friday night game. Well, then that following Monday, I went out to the field because I wanted to see where he had injured himself, and the grass had been mowed. So it was really hard to pinpoint, but that field is in really bad condition. Through my investigation and phone calls and talking to people with both the city and the Clovis Municipal Schools, I learned that an agreement or a contract is not in place at that time. Well, it's still not finalized. It's not in place. Because I wanted to see what the schools were responsible for and what the city is responsible for. Per Mr. Bryant, he sent me an email on the 27th of April and gave me a short update and said that, that was May the 13th. He sent me an email and said that an agreement is in the process between the city and the schools, and that, well, that hasn't been finalized yet as far as I know. The other concern that we had, and I have had several phone calls with Russell, was the netting on the field, because where the grandstands are, there's big holes, and as it tapers down to each of the dugout, there's these big holes, and we've had a few really close incidents where people could get hurt, so that's another safety issue. In regards to the agreement, one thing that I do ask of both the city and the Clovis Municipal Schools is to have the people that are involved in implementing that agreement to give them an opportunity to look to see what they're signing up for or what someone has signed us up to do. Make sure the right people are involved in that process. The other thing that I would like to see is that, because our boys need to take ownership, and they do the best that they can while they're out there, and I don't want this to be a money issue, and I think that as long as we come to an agreement, of course it's going to be give and take between the school district and the city, I think this could be a win-win for all of us. And I think it would be better, instead of having that set dollar figure, to say, okay, this is how much you're responsible for paying, is to have some kind of a median or just some understanding to say this is what we're responsible for, and not so much a dollar figure. So those are my two requests on that. Unfortunately, the baseball team, we only use the field for 2 to 3 months out of the year. After our season is over, then there are city leagues that use that same field, which is the Harris Field. And when we go back to the following year, when we go back to use the field, there's a lot of work that needs to be done before we can use it. So these are my concerns and my requests, and like I said, I have a list of 12 items. It's not an all-inclusive list, but this was based. And then again, this list was generated from input from Coach Nick Hartman and myself. So this is available if any of you all want to see it. Like I said, Mr. Bryant has just been wonderful as far as coming out and keeping me informed. And Helen also invited me to come to present and to state our concerns, or our case, if you will, to the city. So that's pretty much what I have. Do you have any questions or concerns, or if you want to provide some insights, please?
Madam Chair and members of the board, and we have received that list, and thank you for providing that to us. And I have actually gone out there, as well as Ms. Burrows, to look at Mike Harris Field and make our own assessment. And it is something that we are working on with the school district, developing an agreement not only for Mike Harris Field, for all the facilities that the municipal school district utilizes, trying to lay out the responsibilities that each party has. And so in regards to Mike Harris specifically, I think that we've put in there, the city of Clovis, obviously it's our turf, our grass, so we'd be responsible for maintaining all the grass. We'd be responsible for making sure it's mowed, making sure that it's fertilized, making sure that the irrigation system is working properly. And then the school system would have the capability, based off of a per season usage on a fee. And so obviously that'll help us offset some of those costs, and it's a very reasonable fee towards the school system to help offset some of those maintenance costs that we are incurring for that particular field itself. We're also doing it, like I said, for the aquatic center. They utilize 2 of the softball fields, or one of the softball fields there at Bob Spencer. They utilize the golf course that we're looking at. And so we have been working with Mr. John King and Ms. Russell to develop what this user agreement could look like. We have submitted a draft over to them for review based off previous discussions that we had with all the parties. And so hopefully they've had a chance to look at it, and hopefully they're including Mr. Bach in as well as we're going through this process. And so I think it is something that we're going to have in place, but it's definitely something that we need to line out and take a look at and get formalized to where both parties, like I said, have an understanding what they're each responsible for. So I've shared your list with Mr. King as well, and said, hey, where could we potentially partner together to help rectify some of these outstanding issues that have been noted out there at Mike Harris Field.
Ms. Bocanegra, thank you for coming
You're welcome.
and
Thank you.
presenting to us tonight. I know it's not easy to stand up in front of everyone and voice your concerns, but we do take the safety of everyone that uses the Clovis parks and fields very seriously. So we appreciate you bringing this to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here this evening? Okay. Well, our next meeting will be Monday, June 20th at 5:30 here in the North Annex. And if that's all, we are adjourned.